Shall we just call it off today? What are you talking about? We've come this far, so it's time to give up on that idea. Bob, unusually hesitant about his checkup today. While persuading him, I ponder whether it's normal to be nervous facing a new doctor for the first time. As we were talking, Bob's name was called, and I helped him as we headed to the examination room. Linda, please wait outside for me. But I've always been a bother, so just take a break while I'm getting examined. With those words, I was sent out of the examination room. While waiting in the waiting room, after a while, Bob returned, escorted by a nurse. Are you Bob's wife? Please come this way. For some reason, only I was called by the nurse to a different room. Is there something wrong? In the separate room, I tentatively asked the doctor. Go to the police immediately. What? At this rate. I was stunned by the words that came out of his mouth. And so, I quickly took action. My name is Linda. I'm a 28-year-old part-time housewife. I have a husband, Bob, and an 8-year-old daughter, Emily. However, Emily and I are not related by blood. I'm in my first marriage, but Bob has been married before, and Emily is his child from that relationship. Are you sure it's okay? I already have a child, and on top of that, I'm also. Bob hesitated as he spoke, and I responded with a smile, don't worry about it. Bob is blind. Apparently, he used to see but became blind while protecting his ex-wife in an accident. I met him through my job. I draw webcomics, and one day, I received a request, could you draw this story? It was a novel written by Bob. I wanted everyone to know that there are things a blind person can still do. Plus, I need to work to support Emily. That heartfelt content was about his life after becoming blind. Moved by his story, I was delighted to turn it into a comic. Then, the editor contacted me, saying, the author of the novel would very much like to meet you, and we arranged to meet at a cafe. Accompanied by Emily, he arrived. He smiled gently, a serene presence, and I was quickly drawn to him. I want to be your help too. I want to be your eyes. I've wanted to be with you for a long time too. I love your voice, it's very comforting. He told me he fell in love with my voice, and that's how we started dating. Hey, Emily, would it be okay if I became your mom? Yes. With Emily's approval, we decided to get married. My parents were concerned about Bob being blind and having a child. But if that's what you've decided, we'll support you. That's right. But remember, you can always come back home if you need to. Eventually, they came around to supporting me. Knowing they were always there to help, I could embark on married life with peace of mind. Emily, dinner's ready. Thank you. Emily, always polite in her thanks to me. We've been living together since we started dating, but she hasn't quite opened her heart to me. Well, that's understandable. It's not easy to suddenly accept a once stranger as a mother. I hope she'll come to accept me over time. That smells good. Just as Emily was about to say something, Bob came walking along the wall. Emily startled slightly at his appearance. Bob, are you okay? The table is this way. I'm concerned about Emily, but for now, I attend to Bob. See you later. In the meantime, Emily went off to elementary school. By the time I turned around, she was already gone, and I could only hear the door closing. Listening to that sound, I sighed. Is something wrong? Oh, sorry. I was just thinking about how Emily and I aren't getting any closer. Bob looked a bit troubled by my words. Seeing this, I quickly explained. I knew acceptance wouldn't come immediately and believed time would solve things. Thanks for caring about her. Maybe Emily is still wary of the idea of a mother. The woman, Tina, is Emily's biological mother and his ex-wife. As soon as she learned Bob was blind, she left him and her daughter. Abandoned by her real mother. That might be why Emily is wary of me trying to be her new mother too. That's what Bob suspects. I'm sorry, but please be patient with this. Yes, I plan to. Even though he couldn't see, I smiled at Bob's words. Bob also smiled back and said, thank you. Shall we have breakfast? Let's eat well and get on with our work. That sounds good. Both of us work from home, but we have separate working rooms. This allows us to work at our own pace. Will you be cooped up in your room all day today? Yes, I plan to. I'll only go out for meals. Understood. Just don't overdo it, okay? With a smile, I nodded at his words and headed to my working room. By the way, I wonder what kind of work Bob does. I thought to myself. We make it a point not to interfere with each other while working. Therefore, I don't know much about what Bob does during his work hours. He used to write books using Braille, but I haven't heard him talk about that recently. Well, my earnings alone are enough for us to live comfortably, so it's not a problem. He must be facing challenges that I can't even imagine. I think it's enough for me to just watch over him. With that thought, I decided to focus on my own work. A few days later, I was traveling with Bob to a hospital that took several hours to reach by car. I feel bad since you're busy, Linda. Don't worry about it. I want to help. Honestly, I think it would be better to go to a big hospital closer to home. But Bob insists on this particular hospital for some reason. A childhood friend of mine works here as a doctor, and she knows my situation well. He reconnected with this childhood friend when he was brought to this hospital after the accident. She has been a great support to him ever since, even after Tina left him. That's why I've decided only she should treat me. Oh, really? So that your friend is a woman? That's right. I had assumed his childhood friend was a man. Learning that was a woman made me feel slightly uneasy. Even though it's just a medical consultation, the thought of traveling hours just to see a female childhood friend bothers me. What kind of person is this childhood friend? She's kind. She gets along well with her husband too. I felt relieved to hear she was married. A married person wouldn't do anything inappropriate. Then, Bob and I entered the hospital. It's the first time we meet, isn't it? I'm Amanda West, Bob's doctor. Amanda introduced herself with a gentle smile. She was very beautiful and indeed seemed kind. It must be hard for you too, adjusting to a new life and getting tired. I'm here to listen if you need someone to talk to. I felt ashamed for almost feeling jealous of her. What a dependable, nice person she is. I felt that way, and when Amanda suggested, let's exchange contact information if you're okay with it, I was delighted to exchange it. But maybe that was a mistake. Oh, a message from Amanda. That night, a message from her popped up on my phone. Are you really doing okay with Bob? Bob is going through a lot, so you need to hold up your end. What? I was confused by the content of the messages. It didn't seem like something the doctor I met during the day would send. I ended up consulting Bob about it. She always tries to act like a big sister to me. Maybe that's why she sent such messages. According to Bob, she has always been protective, saying, "I'll take care of Bob." She was deeply concerned about our marriage, especially after what happened with Tina. Perhaps that's why she's being somewhat cold to me as a childhood friend. Once she sees that I'm living happily, she'll probably be reassured. That's true. Then I need to make sure we are happy. Bob laughed as I said this, saying, "That's the spirit." Emily seemed to be watching us with something to say. Emily, is something wrong? Nothing. When I asked Emily, she glanced at Bob and shook her head. Then she said, "I'm going to bed first," and went to her room. It'd be nice if Emily could smile a bit. Then, I could hear such a murmur from Bob. When I turned around to this comment, Bob tilted his head with a puzzled I felt a slight unease at his reaction. Can you tell Emily's expressions? Yeah, we are parent and child, after all. I can tell by the tone of her voice. Bob said with a smile. Indeed, being together for 8 years, a parent might recognize subtle cues in voice tone. But how could he respond to my silent turn? Just a coincidence? Is something the matter, Linda? No, it's nothing. Bob, sensing my concern or perhaps puzzled by my silence, asked worriedly. I shook my head at him. Perhaps I'm just overthinking it. I tried to convince myself of that. Linda. One day, unusually, Emily initiated a conversation. Surprised, I managed a smile, making sure she didn't notice my astonishment. What's up? This is for when Dad isn't around. She said, handing me a piece of paper. As I took it, she instructed, "Please make sure Dad doesn't see it," then hurried away. I heard the front door close, so she must have gone outside. I think she mentioned going to a friend's house. What's this? The paper had a series of numbers written on it. Linda? Has Emily already left? As I pondered the meaning of the numbers, Bob called out to me. I quickly hid the paper in my pocket. Yes, she's already gone. She seems a bit rushed. That's more childlike, isn't it? I hope she acts that way around me someday. Bob chuckled at my words. That would be nice. He seemed unaware of what I had hidden. What's up with you? Aren't you off today? Usually, Bob rests until nearly noon on his days off. I didn't expect him to be awake this early. I was thinking, maybe we could go for a walk together if it's not too much trouble for you. Bob suggested with a gentle smile. That sounds nice. I need a change of scenery myself. You're always working so hard. Just make sure not to overdo it. Bob probably thought I was tired from work. But my fatigue wasn't from work. It was from the stress of dealing with Amanda's messages. Since then, she kept sending messages saying, "Don't trouble Bob." Initially, I replied with, "It's okay, we're helping each other," but since the messages kept coming daily, I've been ignoring them recently. Going for a walk has been a while, hasn't it? Yes, it really has. I memorized the number Emily gave me and discarded the paper itself while on a walk, hoping that I wouldn't have to use that number. A few days later, it was time for Bob's regular checkup, and I spent several hours taking him to the usual hospital. What? Amanda is off today? Yes, apparently she caught the infectious disease that's going around. What was different this time was that Amanda was off. But there are other competent doctors, so we had one of them see him. I'm glad the several hours it took to get here weren't wasted. However, it seems Bob thought differently. If she's not here, maybe we should just call it off today? What? He suddenly suggested this, and I turned to him in surprise. What are you talking about? It's a regular checkup, we need to go through with it. Besides, we've come all this way, let's make the most of it. Bob made a displeased face at my insistence. I calmed him down and had him sit in the waiting room chair. Should we really just call it off today? What are you talking about? We've come this far, so it's time to give up on that idea. Bob was particularly reluctant to have his checkup today. While persuading him, I pondered whether it's normal to be nervous when facing a new doctor. Soon, Bob's name was called, and I assisted him to the examination room. Linda, please wait outside for me. But I'm always causing you trouble, just take a break while I'm being examined. With those words, I was sent out of the examination room. While waiting in the waiting room, Bob eventually returned, escorted by a nurse. Are you Bob's wife? Please come this way. For some reason, I was called by the nurse to a separate room. Is there something wrong? In the separate room, I cautiously asked the doctor. Go to the police immediately. What? If things continue like this, you will be used and eventually discarded. I was stunned by the words he spoke. And to take immediate action, I started moving. After some time, I received a call from Bob on my phone. Linda? Where on earth did you go? Me? I'm at the police station right now, with Emily and Tina. Bob fell silent at my words, speechless for a while. Eventually, in a frail voice, he murmured, "Why?" Dr. Williams told me the truth about you. At that time, it was Dr. Williams who revealed the truth to me. Dr. Williams, who called me aside, said, "Bob can see." What? Moreover, he is not the kind person you think he is. That's what he told me. His words left me truly perplexed. I understand it's hard to believe, but haven't you had any suspicions yourself? Prompted by his question, recent actions of Bob came to mind. How he reacted immediately to my movements, even though he's supposed to be blind. How he moves around our home without assistance and manages his personal grooming perfectly. But what bothered me the most was his relationship with Emily. Emily always seemed concerned about his eyesight, and whenever I talked with her, Bob would quickly interject. It was as if he was monitoring Emily's every move. Indeed, there have been concerning things. What he has shown you is a false person. He's conspiring with Dr. West to deceive you. If Bob's blindness was a lie, it would be strange for Amanda not to notice. Perhaps, as childhood friends, she conspired with him. Bob and Amanda are having an affair. What? It seemed that Amanda's cooperation was not because they were acquaintances, but because they were involved romantically. Digging deeper, I learned that their relationship began during the time of Tina, who was aware of it. Tina, being a nurse, had confided in Dr. Williams and others close to her. She was about to confront them when I heard about the accident involving Tina and Bob. This revelation gave me a bad feeling. I dreaded to think it, but I believe that Bob was involved in causing that accident. Shocked, I was told firmly by Dr. Williams. Afterward, she apparently went back to her hometown and we lost contact with her. I heard that Emily was taken in by Bob. Yes, she's actually living with me now. Bob probably took Emily in to assess child support and to check how much truth she knew. That's why he would check on us when we talked, being extra cautious. Realizing this, Emily wouldn't open up to me and acted like she was running away from Bob. I can't believe this. But some things do make sense. It would be best if we could contact his ex-wife, but it seems she's changed her contact information. Remembering the number Emily gave me, I spoke up. Actually, Emily gave me a phone number. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to call the mysterious number. The person who answered was, as I expected, Tina. When I informed Bob of this, he fell silent. Ignoring Bob's silence, I continued the story. She was being monitored by your parents. Despite that, she desperately wanted to maintain a connection with her daughter. And gave Emily a contact number for a phone you didn't know about. Emily didn't have her own phone, and the home phone was monitored by Bob, making it impossible to use. I was the only one who seemed reachable. That's why Emily gave me her phone number. With her nurse's keen observation, she found a moment when your parents' surveillance was lax and made her escape. What are they doing? Bob's voice sounded irritated, a tone I had never heard before. It seems he finally showed his true nature. That's why I contacted Emily's school, and now we're all here at the police station. A parent and child are having an emotional reunion right in front of me. Seeing them like this, I feel like I'm about to cry too. Meddling in unnecessary things. What's unnecessary? I did what any person would naturally do. Tina and Emily both were crying when they said, "Thank you so much." Seeing this, my overriding emotion was fierce anger. Separating a parent and child for selfish reasons, and deceiving others for personal gain. Furthermore, that novel which moved me turned out to be entirely built on lies. Learning this truth, I was so overwhelmed with shock and anger that I saw white. She has the evidence that she was confined by your parents herself. Plus, with Dr. Williams's medical report, you can prove that your disability benefits, which you thought were due to your blindness, were fraudulently claimed. Why would you do such a thing? You enjoyed our life together, didn't you? Indeed, I did feel happiness in my life with him. Above all, I married him because I loved Bob. Right. You were just mocking me, weren't you? With that statement, Bob fell silent again. Actually, before going to the police station, I stopped by our house and peeked into his working room. I thought I might find evidence of his infidelity. What I found there was messages where you weren't working at all and were teaming up with Amanda to make a fool of me. That is, the messages described me as oblivious and naive and easy to manipulate. There was a message from Amanda to Bob asking, "Why did you choose such a woman?" To which he replied, "For the money. You chose me because as a webcomic artist I was earning well. You thought it was simple for me to be moved by reading your novels. I was really underestimated." To this, Bob retorted, "It can't be helped." What cannot be helped? As I pondered this, he began to speak unasked. I didn't want to do this either, but I really needed the money, and the only person I truly love is you, Linda. Do you think I can believe that now, after you even planned to get rid of me? What? You saw that too? Yes, besides the messages with Amanda, he had made plans to get rid of me. Bob, who had been living a life of luxury without working by taking the wealth from his ex-wife. Unable to forget such a lifestyle, he found a new source of income in me. a webcomic artist with a good income, and since I work from home, it was easy for Bob to keep an eye on me. Was it to make it look like an accident after you were done with me? That was a joke, I wasn't serious. It didn't seem like a joke to me, so we all rushed to the police. I was in danger of being threatened, and to denounce Bob and his scams. Emily was protected from Bob, and Tina had come to file a complaint about her past confinement and the slander she suffered. You're finished now. The police are already on their way to you. At those words, Bob muttered in panic, "Damn it." Immediately after, Dr. Williams's voice saying, "Running away is futile," was heard, indicating his failed escape attempt. It seems to be over. As I heard the police's voices at the end, I hung up the phone. The police were probably heading to Amanda's place where she was recuperating at home, and to his parents' place as well. It's all right now. I reassured Emily with those words. Thank you for letting me see my mom. She responded with a beaming smile. Seeing her smile at last made me very happy. Afterward, it seems that Emily and Tina truly went back to Tina's parents' house. Their home, being a plane ride away, would be out of Bob's easy reach. Leave that man to me. I'll make sure he faces his responsibilities. By saying this to them, I was able to give them some peace of mind. Emily and Tina returned to their hometown with smiles. As for Bob, he ended up in the care of the police due to his actions this time. The plans to harm me hadn't been executed yet, so there was insufficient evidence. However, the fraud involving the benefits and the situation with Tina was deemed malicious. As a result, Bob was sentenced to prison time. Was he? That's good to hear. Today, I met with Dr. Williams to report about Bob. When I shared the news, he smiled in relief. What about Dr. West? She's being charged for writing a false medical report. Dr. Williams explained Amanda's current situation. It appears she has been stripped of her medical license because of this incident. She has, of course, been ousted from the hospital as well. Moreover, it has come to light that she was involved with multiple patients and was taking hospital supplies home, for which the hospital is now billing her. Furthermore, her husband learned everything and divorced her without discussion. Well, she got what she deserved. Did you get divorced too, right? Yes, of course. My divorce from Bob was also finalized successfully. We had a lawyer mediate, and I've blocked all contact with him. Thanks to that, I was able to get divorced without having to see him. I'm really glad we could at least save you. Dr. Williams said that with a laugh. It seems he had always regretted not being able to help Tina. Just when he was harboring those feelings, he saw me with Bob. It turns out he had been working behind the scenes to help me this time. There was no evidence of Amanda and Bob conspiring, so I was carefully waiting for a chance to expose the truth about him. To see through Bob's lies, a medical examination was necessary. However, Amanda was always Bob's doctor and never let any other doctor handle his case. So, he had been waiting for an opportunity, and this time it finally came. No matter how good his acting was, he couldn't deceive a doctor's eyes. Dr. Williams laughed as if to say he had accomplished what he intended. Thank you so much. If you hadn't told me the truth that day, I might not be in this world right now, I said, expressing my heartfelt gratitude. Likewise. Thank you for believing in me, Dr. Williams replied with a smile. Sometime later, I received a message from Amanda on my phone. I forgot to block her. Dozens of calls and messages. The messages said, "You've ruined my life." She tried to take someone else's life first. She has no right to complain. Saying that, I didn't reply and blocked her number. Currently, I am back at my parents' home. They surely don't know where my family home is, and I should be able to live in peace for a while. Linda, I'm about to start dinner. How's your work going? Thanks, Mom. I just finished a section. I headed to my mother with a smile. Soon after, the news was dominated by a certain story. That is, the original creator of that famous webcomic was arrested for fraud. In fact, my webcomic had become popular, and there were plans to turn it into an anime soon. However, it was discovered that the content was all false, and the anime project was scrapped. Because of that, I was criticized to some extent as the author of the webcomic. Nonetheless, since the editors and the hospital defended me, I am now seen as the deceived party and am receiving sympathy. When Bob gets out, he'll have nowhere to go. He has deceived everyone around him for so long. I hope he fully experiences the consequences of his actions. Several years after that incident. Although I had already moved out, I came back home for a small errand. Just then, the doorbell at my parents' house rang. Yes. It's been a while, Linda. I've come to pick you up. Standing there was Bob, who had stopped pretending to be blind. I was relieved. I checked the monitor before opening the door. He started explaining his situation without being asked. He was arrested because of the incident with Tina, had to borrow money to repay the disability benefits. And his parents had moved away after being shunned by their neighbors, so he couldn't return home. The only person I have left is you, Linda. Shall we try to be happy together? I refuse. I firmly rejected his plea. Bob looked hurt. As if he was trying to position himself as the victim, which irritated me. It's your fault this happened. Don't you think about taking responsibility? I don't see why I should. I have no responsibility here. It's all the result of your own actions, isn't it? But, despite my rejection, Bob tried to cling on. As I was exasperated with him and about to contact the police, someone asked him, "What are you doing there?" Bob turned around in surprise. "Ah, you are that doctor." There stood Dr. Williams and my parents, all looking angry. "Did you really come here to cling to her? That's quite pathetic." "Shut up. If you hadn't meddled in the first place. I only did what was right as a doctor and as a person." Dr. Williams responded calmly, despite being angry, as Bob glared at him. While watching them, I called the police. Your selfishness has troubled many people. If anyone should take responsibility, it's you. Damn it. Bob tried to lash out at Dr. Williams. Enough of this. However, he was stopped by my father. My father, who had learned wrestling in the past, easily subdued Bob, who had neglected physical activity due to his years of feigned blindness. Damn. Let me go. Bob shouted, but my father did not let go until the police I had called arrived to take him away. Linda, are you all right? Yes, thank you. I answered with a smile to Dr. Williams, who looked concerned after Bob was taken away. He smiled back, reassured. He really rushed over as soon as he saw that guy. Really? I can trust him with you. My parents said, watching us with a smile. Indeed, we were engaged. Our relationship had grown stronger through the ordeal with Bob, and after his confession, we had started dating. Yes, leave her to me. He nodded in agreement, and my parents nodded back, saying, we leave her to you. Well, now that the moving is done, shall we celebrate in our new home? Actually, today's visit was due to my parents moving house. It was meant to be a measure against Bob and the likes, but it seems we barely made it in time. Well, I got to see his impressive actions, and next time he comes around, he can taste the despair of finding no one here. Let's go. Yes. As he nodded, he offered his hand. I took his hand with a smile. Some time has passed since then, and today is my second wedding day. Linda, you look beautiful. Thank you, Emily. Emily and Tina made a special effort to attend the ceremony, showering us with blessings. I couldn't become her mother. But seeing her full of smiles like this is more than enough for me. Enjoy today. Yes. Congratulations on your wedding. Her smile prompted a heartfelt smile from me in return.